left channel, right channel, center.
ENVTuber 一問一答自己紹介
Yeah, and the tape's
それじゃあ
rolling.
行くよせーのお名前は
Katt Phloxworthy.
呼び方は
Just Cat is fine.
あなたは何系 VTuber?
Nerdy cat girl who features spaceflight.
誕生日は
May 4th.
年齢は
Older than Pneumatic.
性別は
Transgender
身
female.
長は
4'11".
出身は
Sacramento County.
チャームポイントは
Dialogue hair clip.
突然ですがモノマネどうぞ
Yeah, what's up, Dad?
活動場所は
Twitch, Twitter, YouTube.
はじめの挨拶
Thank you for joining me.
終わりの挨拶
Bye.
推しマークは
None at present.
配信タグは
Cat-like feed.
ファンアートは
Cat pics.
ファンネームは
Cat's apprentices.
好きな色は
Iris Indigo.
好きなことは
Vintage computers and
得
video.
意なことは
Technology.
ここで一言愛の告白好
I love you.
きな食べ物は
Ethnic foods.
好きな飲み物は
Craft soda.
好きな漫画は
Pizza 10.
好きなアニメは
Planet.
好きなゲームは
Left 4 Dead 2.
好きな音楽は
Classic rock.
苦手なことは
Human stupidity.
尊敬するのは
Space fairy people.
叶えたい夢は
ISS crew
最後にみん
interview.
なに一言どう
Thanks
ぞ
so much for your support and a final status check.
Go Atlas.
Go Centaur.
Go Katt Phlox.
You have permission to launch.
3, 2, 1. RD-180 ignition. Booster ignition and liftoff of Atlas V and Centaur. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me. Oh boy, something really went wrong. I don't know what happened, but oh crap! I need to do some other troubleshooting. I thought I'd unmuted it, but I guess I don't know what was going on. But again, thank you again for all the heads ups. What had originally happened was I pressed the unmute mic. Let me check something real quick here. I'm going to mute the mic real quick on OBS Studio, which is the other problem I had. Is I unmuted it from here. I was pressing the wrong button to unmute it. That's the reason why. Let's try something real quick. I'll be right back here. Okay, yeah, I must, again, it must be me doing something wrong. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. But anyway, I just paid my car off, which is good, just this past Friday. And I've had this car for nearly 6 years and finally managed to get it paid off. Yeah, sorry about the scuff. Oh yeah, definitely a nice thing. But anyway, that, and I also picked up 4 computers, the kind I'm not used to having. I've been actually working, I've seen them every now and again at work, but this was my first time having one at home. And this one's going to be a little different. We're going to be showing you I'm going to be showing you one of the machines, and then we're going to do the main feature, as I mentioned in the title, and that is we're going to be playing with OBS Studio release 32.1.0 Beta 2. They apparently just put out a new mixer in there, so we're gonna play with it and see how things are looking. And on top of that, I'm going to show how this is called portable OBS Studio works. Because basically what happens is that normally when something like this comes out, I usually set up OBS Studio in what is called portable mode, which basically allows me to run the stuff completely independently of what's installed at the system level. Because let's just put it this way, I really don't want to have to deal with fires that I have to go put out on stream. And I've done that numerous times. And the fewer times I can do it, the better, of course. And being able to see what happens ahead of actually streaming with a major update, and this appears to be not necessarily a huge major update, but certainly big enough. So we'll find out in a bit, but first things first, I'm going to show you a machine that one of the machines I just recently picked up, and for that we're going to go over here. Of course, you'll see my Elgato logo on there. Let's see, do I have the BGM turned on here? That's something I still need to fix at some point, because right now what we're going to do is, ordinarily I would have the BGM off from my games and using the game music within the game. So this time we're going to actually turn the music on and leave it there for the balance of the stream. Unless, of course, we're getting ready to do any kind of audio. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to show the computer itself. I'm going to turn around and touch the power button. And then we're going to go into the setup real quick. And I'm going to show you. It's going to look much like the one that I did a few months back in last August, I believe. Last August or September, when I was getting ready with the new machine that was going to serve as the new encoder. This takes a little bit of time to come up. Power is on. Now I'm just waiting on the... I'm going to bring the... excuse me, the HDMI screen. Come on. There we go. Getting into setup here. I have a total of 4 of these machines. 3 of which have 2 processors in them. This is one of them, and is probably the best equipped as far as the processors go. We're gonna go ahead and bring up the setup screen, and I'm gonna give you a tour of what things are a little different on a machine like this. System information, dual dual Xeon cores. In this case, they're the E5 2680 V3 core machines at 2.5 gigahertz. And there's a total of 128 gigs of RAM. The thing is, it's actually more technically 64 plus 64, each 64 going to each of the two processors, and it's using ECC memory. So RDDR4, meaning it's registered memory. I believe there's a register chip on there that all the data must pass through in order to go to the rest of the data bus. And of course, there's the BIOS version, boot block date, management engine, firmware version and mode, using AMT, which is advanced management. I don't know technology. Of course, we got all the other information on that one. Security, setup administrator password. I'm not going to set that up here. Plus, you can also change. You can do the if you have that set up, I believe. And of course, you can also change the password if it's there. Password policy. So you can, for example, say you got to make sure you have a nice, strong password when you set up. I think that's what it is. TPM embedded security. This one has TPM 2.0, which I can use directly with Windows 11. It was not required for Windows 10. It wanted, in fact, went so far as to say, I think, required 1.2 at the very least, but I believe can also use 2.0. 11 requires it. In fact, some games like Valorant actually directly use it. You have to turn on Secure Boot and TPM in order to make use of that. And it's also basically it stores secure information such as your encryption keys for like storing disks, storing data on your drives. If you're using, for example, BitLocker with Windows 11 Pro and Windows 11 Pro for workstations, and I believe also Windows Enterprise. Let's see here, and remember Windows 98. So do I. I've been using Windows as far back as Windows 3.0. And you can clear that and stuff like that if you need to. See SHA-1 and SHA-256 event log format. I don't know what that does. Because I don't make active use of TPM on anything really that I do. As far as I'll have to do some lookup. I have to do some research as to what Valorant uses it for. But apparently, Valorant wants/needs TPM to work, and it only does that if you're using Windows 11. Drive block security. Basically, you can actually set it up on this machine to set up security stuff on that machine. Basically, you could directly let the drive do the encoding as opposed to the computer doing it, which is what TPM goes with. Goes hand in glove with this goes in hand in glove with BitLocker, but this is completely independent of that, and on top of that is system independent, I believe. Utility, system security. You have this stuff for virtualization, directed virtualization, which allows you to use real hardware within a virtual machine. TXT, which is trusted extensions technologies. I don't know what the LT is for, but I have it turned off. In order to make that work, you have to have TPM turned on. So I could turn it on if I wanted to, but I'm not going to at this point in time. Persistent device security. System management, I have it enabled. At some point, I'm going to mess with it on one of the other machines. Persistent device security uses a technology from a company called Absolute. And sometimes on some Dell machines, some will say CompuTrace, and this one just says persistent device security. And in this case, it actually says it directly refers to. Oh, hang on, going back here. It says absolute persistent module permanent disable, no, and activation status inactive. Basically, if you were a company and you wanted to track your asset and enroll it into a CompuTrace, you would you would call them up and say, I need you to enroll serial number XYZ in the system, and that will bring the system online. And in case someone gets, and in certain cases, if you turn on the system, and in one case I saw, it will actually tell you XYZ. This computer belongs to XYZ, and they have the authority to unlock this machine. And I mainly see it on laptops. And of course, boot options, PXE internal NIC boot, PXE standing for pre-execution environment. Basically, what I do is I boot from the network. What I did when I first got this machine, it had no drives in it, so I had to put drives in it, and I had to get something to install on here. Although on this particular drive, I used a thumb drive using Ventoy, which is the thumb drive variant of this guy who also puts out another program called iVentoy, which works much the same as Ventoy, but does it over a network as opposed to on a thumb drive. Fast boot, I think, skips loading a few drivers. When the machine starts up, I leave it off for now. F5 wake on LAN. That's if you have the machine set up such that it turns on when you send a specialized packet to the network interface. It will then say do something. In this case, boot to the hard drive. But it also has options to boot to network or don't use it at all. Post delay in seconds, that is, when does it actually finish doing the what happens after the power on self-test? Right now I have it turned off. It can be anywhere between 5 seconds to a full minute in 5-second intervals in the first 15 seconds, and every 10 seconds longer after starting at 20 going to the rest of a full minute. See what optical media boot support, we got that. Factory recovery boot support, we have it enabled, but we don't have the partition for it. I'm not going to worry about it. Optical media port goes without saying. USB media support, again, goes without saying. Had it been turned off, that thumb drive that I had would not have worked. Wait a minute, I'm not using that mouse. Let me try that again. And I'm using the wrong mouse. Let's try that. I need to go to this one. It says USB media support. No, that one. MRC is disabled, whatever that is. MRC fast path on startup. Uses the previously saved saved memory training settings when power on your system instead of doing a full memory training sequence. So basically, makes assumptions when you first turn the computer on, if I'm understanding this right. UEFI boot options, that's turned off because we're only booting from UEFI. UEFI boot order, yeah, that's going to take a little bit of explanation. Let's see. SATA, that has 4 ports on the motherboard. There are 2 other ones on there. There are other 2 ones that are considered SATA, standard SATA. I don't know what SATA is, but basically, let me try that again. We're going to make a few changes anyway. These 2 are the onboard Ethernet ports, IPv4 network, IPv6 network. And there are other drives on here. We're going to move this one down here, because I like having thumb drives available when I want to use them. And under here, I'm going to put this one up here because why not? And then I have a quad port 1 gigabit Ethernet card in here. And I have a 10 gigabit Ethernet, one of the AT2 cards that I have unofficial driver support from Intel on there, but I basically have to tell it not to validate the drivers and basically temporarily disabling signature enforcement in order to get things loaded. Once they're loaded, we can go ahead and turn that back on, and everything's good. But unfortunately, it doesn't have UEFI support for Pixie. If I had one of those Aquantia AQ107s, AQC107s, it would actually have a menu entry in here. Actually, two, IPv4 and IPv6. So what we're going to do is we're going to save that. And had I actually told it to include it legacy, the legacy options would be below. And you could actually enable or disable either set. Device configuration, I'm using AHCI. I'm not using RAID on these. There's actually two of them. Support that's the serial ATA. There are two ports like this. And then SATA, there are two of them. And they can also be set as eSATA. XHCI is USB 3 ports on the USB 3 ports on there. There are 4 in the front and 2 in the back on this machine. At least I believe there are. Actually, there are 4 in the front, 4 in the back, and then 2 standard USB 2.0 ports on the back. Azalea, which is the onboard motherboard audio. Internal speaker. AMT, this only has one card in here, and then on top of that, one Ethernet port in here on the board. AMT, again, advanced management technology. ACS, let me take a look at this one real quick here. Access control services that support the PCI capability. It's apparently turned on. I'm not going to worry about it. Training reset. And hey, how you doing, Green Dragon? I hope you're doing all right. Continue. Training reset. Some PCIe add-in cards don't function properly if training isn't initiated quickly enough after they come out of reset. Issuing a reset after PCIe training allows many of them to work. So if I decided to go and do that on my studio machine, I will likely do that on one of the dual port cards that is in the other machine if I do that. So that's an option there. And then there's an early reset delay. We're gonna, using the wrong mouse. That's the one we wanted. Some PCIe add-in cards don't function properly if training isn't. Oh, that's for training reset. This is the one I wanted to say. Some devices experience issues with the first warm reset which occurs shortly after powering on the system. With more time between power on and reset, these machines have a better chance of initializing properly. By enabling this workaround, boot time and S3 resume time. S3 has to do with the computer going to sleep. This is a new computer because it looks like BIOS. Actually, it's new to me. This computer is about at least 11, if not 12 years old. But I'm going to show you some interesting things about this machine before too long. By enabling this workaround, boot time has been increased by about 5 seconds. Basically, allowing some of the machines that are a little bit more cantankerous after being rebooted shortly after the machine's being powered on. NVMe write endurance masking. This computer actually does not have NVMe hardware on board. You have to add a card in there, but it will actually do that. It says here, when enabled, system will no longer pause to report a critical error during boot when NVMe write endurance is exceeded. All other errors will continue to be reported as usual. Numlock on boot. Well, we knew that one. Oh hell, I'll turn it on because I want it on. Device configurations, AHCI. That's the standard stuff, but you can also go RAID or IDE. Secure boot. Right now we have secure boot turned off as well as legacy turned off. That allows us to use this selection allows us to use legacy boot as well as UEFI, and we can switch each one of those on and off during the boot sequence. And then of course legacy support and disable legacy support and enable secure boot if you're running Windows 8, 8.1, 10, and 11. Well, they probably don't want you to use Windows 11 on these machines because they're so old. But we're gonna say, screw you, Microsoft. We're doing it anyway. Anyway, that gives you those options. I've seen a computer that will that still shows IDE in a long time. Oh my goodness, yeah. Secure boot management, secure boot key management, clear secure boot keys. We don't have it. We only have the stuff that comes by default from Microsoft. Clearing default will disable secure boot. That makes sense because there's nothing to use secure boot with. We're not going to do that. Enable Microsoft UEFI certification authority key. We're not using. We're not going to worry about that. Actually, it's already turned on. We want that. Haven't played Ready BIOS for requires by administrator to be configured, and secure needs an administrator password, and secure boot both need to be turned on. I am not using that, so I can't use that. And I think that's a Hewlett Packard specific feature, I believe. Well, actually, I'd have to double check that. Device guard use. I've seen this. Actually, I've seen device guard on other platforms, particularly Lenovo, but I've never actually used it. Let's see. We've done that. Option ROM policy. Everything is UEFI, Network AMT option ROM. Basically, if I do remote management, especially, and if this isn't a business environment, you may have a lot of machines with these turned on, and then you have a piece of software that either does it individually or en masse. Doing management operations. Mini ORAM display only works on legacy. I could show you that in just a sec here. Let's see. USB device control. Basically, you could say which ones you want to be able to let use the port and run. Either turn them all off at once, turn them back on. Actually, turns them both on at once, and then you have rear ports. Turn them on and off. Getting computing out of storage now. We'll have to have tests to see which ones still work, because I lost my domain machine. Lost a lot of the commands to start up Linux domain again. So I'll have to buy a book on it and relearn it. Oh, fun stuff! I'll bet. And then internal ports you can enable and disable as well. Power options, enhanced halt state, unique blink states, thermal options. I'm not going to mess with those. S4, S5 max power savings. According to that, is disabled. After power loss, we're going to probably put this on. I'm going to leave this on previous state yet, because I think this is going to be one I'm going to keep as a machine that I'm going to be working with. So there's that. Because if I turn any of those into streaming machines, and with the button that allows me to control it from any device like my phone or my Stream Deck, I'll actually turn that to power on when it receives power again, like I do with the machines behind me. Performance options. Intel hyper-threading technology. We have threading. Oops, excuse me. We have hyper-threading processors, so we can turn that on. I do have one of them that has non-hyper-threading processors on them. So that means that option won't mean anything. Non-uniform memory access, or NUMA, that has to be turned on if you have multiple processors. Although let's see what it says. And of course, all cores per processor. Let's see what it says here. Select the number of cores per processor to enable. And this one says here, I'm going to close that. And for this one, that option means enables or disables non-uniform memory access, NUMA. PCI performance mode, enable or disable. Configures power and performance options to maximize PCIe bandwidth. QPI or Snoop mode. Basically, it says here, selects the QPI Snoop mode. Early Snoop optimizes latency, and Home Snoop optimizes for bandwidth. In this particular case, if I were to do like my anything where timing is necessary, is critical, I'll have it set for Early Snoop. But if bandwidth is more important than latency, I'll put it on home snoop instead. Oop, wrong key. Oh, that's not what we want. We are not ready for that yet. Then we have ISOC mode, ISOC mode. Disabling ISOC will result in higher memory performance in uniprocessor configurations. We're not in a uniprocessor configuration. We have two processors in here. Isn't all Snoop Dogg, right? PCI Express memory mapped I/O assignment mode auto. Memory mapped I/O resources are assigned automatically using 32-bit addresses or using 64-bit addresses. And apparently, you can either set it to automatically choose or select arbitrarily between either one. We're telling it to do it automatically here. And in here we have slot settings. I had something similar before. I showed this similar. In this case, this has a few other options here. There's a PCI, there is a slot, a single, a one lane slot on here, but the card that actually adds the second processor on here is in the way, so I can't use it. So the first one, there are two 16 lane slots on this machine. One is currently empty, which I plan to use a multiple NVMe card on there. It could be used as a RAID controller, but I'm going to use them separately. And in order to make that work, before we actually do that ROM download, if there are any ROMs on there, we'll execute them. We can limit the speeds to either gens 1, 2, or 3, but we're going to set automatically. This is the one that's kind of important, because if I want to use four NVMe cards in there, I need to have it act with. I have to use what is called bifurcation to split it up into four lane slots. But you can also set it up to use two 8-lane slots in that same thing, or depending on the cards, it'll actually assign it automatically. And in this case, it's going to be one 16-lane slot for the one at the very bottom, which I'll show you soon. We have the PCI Express volume by 4. We have the ROM turned on. That gives us all the PXE options that we saw earlier. And right now we're at generation 2. And right now we're telling it doing it automatically, and apparently only goes up to Gen 2. There's an 8-lane slot here. We have it enabled. ROM option download. I don't know if there's even a ROM on that card. And it's saying Gen 1, which is kind of weird. But it seemed to work just fine on the other machines. And but I am going to, if I end up turning this into a machine that I'm going to put onto the streaming network where all the 10 gig connections are, I would probably put an Aquantia AQC 107 or one of those Intel convergence cards, which has 2 ports on it. And of course, we select 1, 2, or 3 on this one. Bifurcation, we could do 1 of 8 lanes or 2 of 4 lanes. Try that again. Slot management. Down here, of course, we have the 16-lane slots. The 16-lane slot, option rod enabled, already set. I've got a Radeon RX 550 in it, Gen 3 because it's a video card. Limit PCI speed, we already have it set up. Bifurcation, we also have it set up, and it can again go 4 of 4 or 2 of 8. And of course, we only use 1 of 16, but I think the card itself, is only 8 lanes wide. PCI. Yes, this has a standard PCI slot in here. I don't use it because I don't have any PCI, original standard PCI cards in order to use with these machines. So I'm not going to worry about that, so I put the video card over it. The other card, this one up here with the 4-lane, would have been covered by the other one. So basically, I want to be able to use this card for my quad port Ethernet card. And this is a, that is for, I think those are just for PCI, for like if you're doing video stuff on those, and latency timers. You could set options for that. And then we have legacy configurations, data execution prevention. Basically, what happens is that in the past, where you would store stuff is on the stack, and the stack, you could actually run stuff from the stack, and that's how a lot of exploits manage to get on computers, is people inserting code and executing it from the stack. And once you turn execution on those pages off, that neuters any kind of exploits that are actually so inserted. So down here, manageability application configuration. There's all the stuff that it comes with. I haven't messed with any of that yet. I need to do something with that at some point, just to learn it, in case my job ever changes. BIOS power on. I can set it on any time at a given timer, hour and minute. And network configuration settings. We can pull stuff over the network from within the BIOS. And remote HP hardware diagnostics. We can do everything from there too. And then UEFI drivers. We have VLAN configuration, entering menu if we wanted to do that, but we're not doing that. Let's go back to, we have IPv4 configuration on this one, on all 4 of the ports on that one, as well as, of course, the motherboard one. And we can also define, we could say what these are set for. And since I already made a change there, we're gonna go ahead and save and reboot. And we're gonna go into Windows, log in, and go on. I know this is kind of boring at times, but you never know when you might be able to use this information. And of course, you can't really do much in the way of, say, overclocking or anything like that on this machine. Right now, we're just I got this for one reason, and that is for just having a nice, reliable machine. And this is probably going to end up being just a work computer. But I do have OBS Studio, VTube Studio, and vBridger installed, so we can do some testing on there. Some basic baseline testing. It takes a little bit of time because some of the information. And on top of that, I also got a couple of cards with these other machines. Not just the video cards, but 2 of them had SAS controllers, serial attached SCSI. And the other one, it's rebooting the machine because sometimes it wants to do stuff with the TPM. I think I turned it on too when I was here. So now it's getting all that set up. I don't know why it's doing the blinking like that right now. I think it's part of the setup there. There it goes. I guess it was just restarting up. Oh boy. I actually may have to change cards on this, I just realized. So, what we're gonna do, because I was having some problems with this with my normal monitor. I've got a few extra cards with me here that I'm gonna probably end up using. Let's see, we're gonna switch over here. Yeah, I need to shut this machine down. I completely forgot that I didn't realize this was gonna be a problem. Waiting for that to come up so I can log out, so I can turn the machine off. There it goes. We're gonna shut the machine down. Shut down. I'm going to do is I'm going to get I have one of these Quadro K2200s. They're not the most recent ones. And on top of that, if when OBS Studio looks at it, it's going to say, you want to go with that? Well, that's just too bad. It's a Kepler core. They're not going to be supported anymore. Well, too bad. Which I think is kind of ridiculous, but whatever. We will deal. It's not going to be used for that purpose. That's why I have other computers for that purpose. If I ever decided to do that, at least I have another machine with the appropriate hardware that is actually capable of doing encoding at the hardware level. I may not necessarily be able to use the AMT. I think I forget the exact name off the top of my head, that is used for AMD's encoding, hardware encoding when you use that. But anyway, I'm going to be taking the computer offline briefly so I can change out the card. I'm actually going to put this. We're going to temporarily go over to an AFK slide while I make a video card change, and we're going to install the graphics drivers. And it'll be just a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. That was interesting. I was not expecting that to happen. But then again, there's one other potential issue that could have happened, and that is the fact that I don't know what's going on with this machine, but I mean, it worked just fine on the setup screen, but wouldn't work on the other ones. I'm not sure if it's potentially an issue related to the fact that I originally was working this on my 4K TV as a console, and it might have worked better at say 1080p, but I'd rather not do any kind of troubleshooting on stream. I'd rather go with something that I'm reasonably sure is going to work. So I went and switched over to a Quadro K2200, of which I have about half a dozen total, and a couple of them are in these machines. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this machine on. Hold the machine power for a moment. Put it out. That particular little power supply connected to it. There we go. There we go. We're back. Machine's coming up, and as soon as it comes up, we're going to go ahead and log in and make a few changes. Kind of forgot this machine has a grand total of 3 cards in it. One has... Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Cable for my cord and the nub for my mouse, because I use a cordless mouse. Yeah, I must have shorted something out, and like I said, the power supply has some protection mechanisms which engage to keep itself and anything attached to it from being damaged, either at all or any further. And in order to reset that, you have to sometimes pull the plug out of the power, pull the power cord out of the computer. Wait about, I don't know, 5 or 10 seconds, and then plug it back in, and then try powering it on again. And of course, we have it running right now. We have the right one up here. Yep, we have the right one. I think. There it goes. Waiting for the there. I think we got a. I hope we have power coming in. I may have to make another change here. If it happens to be in my bag here. Yep, there it is. Nope, guess I won't have to. It's got a nice blue screen. I'm hoping that's my computer coming up. Well, something is happening. But what I'm hoping is supposed to happen is happening is a different matter. I wasn't getting any video out on it at all when I originally worked on this, got this card and was working on it. But I've since updated all the firmware on all these cards, and it seems to be working just fine. But I've got another option, and that is using. Nope, never mind. I think we're getting something after all. That's not what I'm looking for here. I don't know what's going on here. Like the blue screen for a VCR. Not sometimes it might be emitted by the TV itself, but some are done by by devices connected to it, including VCRs, because otherwise it'd be putting white noise on the screen, which happens when you play videotapes on them that haven't been recorded on or been erased. But it is reacting to my keyboard, which is a good sign. I'm going to shut this machine off and turn it on again and see what happens. But I've also got a have a DVI to HDMI cable. I mean, adapter. We'll test that in a moment. I'm going through one of the two DisplayPort ports on that card. See if it'll work. Okay, I'm seeing blinks. That's a good sign in itself, but not necessarily the sign we're looking for. It's not responding to any of the lock keys. There we go. That is... Yeah, we got a problem. But then again, I'm not used to using this kind of card on the Elgato. I'm going to try the other port in just a moment. Even though DisplayPort is actually based on HDMI/DVI, sometimes they do a few strange things. One of the things that I was having problems with had to do with versions of DisplayPort, most notably between DisplayPort 1.2 and 1.4, and I needed to actually add 1.4 support to this card. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and move this over. It'll take a moment or so. Stand by. Okay, machine is starting up as we speak. Let's see what we get. Hopefully we'll actually get a video signal on this thing. Yeah, sometimes it works best by way of those things. There we go. That's what I was hoping for. I gotta find my keyboard now. Ah, there it is. I see it now. Way of its lights that are changing colors in a very swirly pattern on here. Just your average Walmart gaming keyboard, clicky gaming keyboard at that. It takes a little bit of time to start up. There we go. Windows is starting up. Swirly, swirly. Something like that, yeah. In fact, I'm going to move my gaming keyboard off to the side because the mouse I'm using to control the other computer, I can actually control this computer as well. There we go. log into it, and then we're going to probably going to do a quick test to say, oh yeah, there's a monitor here. At some point, I also need to actually activate this copy of Windows. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to actually, one thing I'm going to do real quick first is we're going to do wait for that to start. Although the main thing I'm wanting to do here I'm trying to get to the normal Windows Start menu so I can get the other start so I can get the folder in there. Not that one. Trying to get the old standard. That's the one we wanted. So we can do this. Nope, don't need to anymore. It's already pinned. Yeah, that's fine. We don't care. We do need this. I was going to try and pin that, but it's already pinned, so I'm not worried about that. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to install the NVIDIA legacy drivers for Kepler and now Maxwell and Pascal cards. One of the other computers I have has a Pascal based card, the ones that I picked up. We need to go to the network, and it looks like crap. My apologies. That is going to change within the next couple of minutes. No, we don't want that one. I'm sorry. I want this one. NVIDIA. I think that's the one we want. One of the things I'm also going to be considering installing on this particular machine, and you'll see why in a minute, and that is a couple of games like Genshin Impact. Nothing particularly heavy, mainly because this card is only like one card set. I mean, one slot thick. While I'm waiting on that, I'm going to do something real quick here. I don't know if you heard that or not necessarily. No, I don't think you did. Get rid of that. Waiting for it to validate the signature on the installer, and then we'll go ahead and install the drivers, and hopefully it'll actually look nice on here. I'm really sorry about the bit of scuff on this side of things, and but as far as the video was concerned, that one I was not anticipating to happen on the by way of the Elgato card. But we'll find it. We'll find out at some point, just not right now. That'll have to happen after stream. And I think my lucky stars at my workplace is giving me tomorrow, giving me the day off work tomorrow. There it is. There we go. Going and installing that real quick. There we go. Shouldn't take all that long, and it should look pretty decent once we're done. I don't think we're even going to need to necessarily reboot the computer. I hope we don't need it. But yeah, NVIDIA drivers, NVIDIA and drivers installers like this will look no different from when you go to install the latest gaming drivers, except for a couple of other options. Now, hopefully, it will give us a nice display driver thing. Unfortunately, I can't change the background because I have to activate Windows. Thankfully, I have options for that, so that's good. A lot of the other computers I mean, the other two of the computers that I have actually are effectively already activated. They have OEM licenses for Windows 10. This one has one, I believe, for 8.0 or 8.1, I forget which. Agree to the needlessly onerous licensing terms? Well, actually, custom. This will show you what's in there. Our text display manager, along with HD audio, as well as, of course, the actual driver itself. Those are the three main drivers there. We're going to go ahead and run that right now. Now, if I had a card that was capable of running SLI, like one of the cards that I have, and if I had a second one and the appropriate cabling on there, I would actually be able to run it SLI, although what will actually use it is anybody's guess. There's pretty much nothing out there is using SLI anymore. Although some cards, I'm not sure how many are using them, how many cards are out there like this nowadays, but some of them may have multiple GPUs on them. SLI is kind of obsolete. Yeah, I know. I know some of the one of the tech stuff that I saw did that, preparing for install. Yeah, I'm running some pretty. I've got a couple of, even though these drives are like 7,200 RPM, they are awfully slow. One of the computers that I recently put up has I put one of the SAS controllers in. And I happen to have a couple of SAS drives in them from I'd gotten from one of my a boss at a former boss at one of my last my old jobs. He gave me some server hardware and along with some other stuff that went with it. In this case, a bunch of hard drives that went with them, but they were SAS drives, which means I cannot use them with serial ATA controllers. But I have a SAS controller now, and once I got all this stuff necessary to plug one of them in, I actually plugged one in, and I actually installed Windows on one of those machines. I finished installing it this morning, as well as updating the basically two of these machines, including this one, had a really old BIOS on the motherboard to the point where it wasn't even showing TPM as being available. So I had to go to one particular version, and I had to go that particular version because then I can actually update TPM. If I went to the later BIOSes, it would, in this case, we'll call them 2.59, which is the one that needs to be installed, which allows me to update the TPM that's in the system. The other two are 2.61 and 2.62. They wouldn't let me update to. They wouldn't allow me to update the TPM from 1.2 to 2.0, rather. So I downgrade to the 2.59 BIOS, and it worked just fine. And I've since updated the firmware there. That's what I was doing with this one. This was the one where I was sort of fumbling around in the dark. Took me an entire day to figure that shit out. And in the other computer, went in lickety-split. Not a problem at all. And of course, the only issue was dealing with the I was tired. Installing the graphic. It's now installing the graphics driver. So we should be seeing the screen change before too long. Hopefully this time actually filling the entire space that the Elgato is presenting to me, which it isn't yet. And this will probably also at least show people a little bit of what some of the more higher end work computers will sometimes show you. Still waiting on the driver to install. Once installed, we'll go ahead and switch over. We'll go ahead and start doing the crazy stuff we were doing first. First of all, I'm going to show you the current setup, which is right now the most recent OBS Studio, as well as all the plugins I would normally have installed. Well, actually, I think I only have just enough of them installed so that I can say I could actually run VTube Studio and then sending the output over a network. I just don't have anything plugged into the other 5 Ethernet ports. And that's one of the other things that I screwed up on the starting up. I had it plugged into the wrong Ethernet port. In this case, the 10 gig port, which happens to be right next to the video card, where the video card that I have in there right now is. And if you ever find yourself in a machine that has multiple NVMe slots on there, they may or may not give you bifurcation options for whatever slot you may end up plugging it into, which is going to be likely a 16-lane slot. They will either give you the option of setting it. In fact, there we go. There's our driver getting ready to bring the. There it is. That's what we were looking for. Finally. So. And there he goes. He's there. It says your audio device output has changed, and there we go. You may be hearing some sounds in there, but anyway, for that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to restart the machine. Restart. So here we go. Machine is restarting as we speak. Once we're in, we will go ahead and check the display, make sure everything is working. And you may even hear some of the sounds on the stream when the machine starts up. And one thing I would always recommend if you're using OBS Studio for the first time, turn off all the default audio stuff in and out, because you don't necessarily want that. It all depends on how your setup is working, though. You may need to re-enable some of that stuff, but I try to turn them off whenever I can. And in the case of games, I don't even use the audio pipeline. I tell it to capture the audio directly from the game. There we go. Coming up soon. Oh, excuse me. Should be coming up any moment now. There we go. Should be getting the... There we go. We should be getting the login screen momentarily. Oh, and I need to double check one other thing while I'm thinking about it here. And yeah, it is set to output like I want it to. Okay. Nope, wrong keyboard. There we go. Okay, as soon as we logged in, there we go. I'm going to show you something here that'll probably blow your mind. Go to Task Manager. I don't know if you heard that just now, which of course is the standard Windows 11 startup sound. Chirp. Point of phrase. There's our now here's where where things are gonna get a little bit weird. These numbers here are what we're talking about. 2 sockets, cores 24. In this case, it's actually 12 real cores, and 2 threads per each core, or 24 for each slot, for each socket, bring it to a total of 24 actual cores and 48 threads. So, and on top of that, even though it's 2.5 gigahertz, it actually doesn't use, I mean, if I fired up, like for example, I'm going to show you, let's switch over to the other computer. First of all, I need to go over here. Go away. Only about 7 or 8, pretty low amount of processing power at this point in time. Okay, we're gonna go in here real quick, and I'm gonna bring up this, because this is something you might want to take a look at in a minute. I'm gonna go open up OBS Studio, and I'm gonna, let's see, I need to go to studio mode. One of the things I'm going to show you is how this looks on a machine, on this machine, which is, I'm going to show you the machine that I'm that actually generates the VTuber image. It's going to be a little messy. Window capture. Okay, here we go. I'm going to switch over to the other one in just a sec here. I'm going to turn off Studio. We're going to go over here for a sec here. This is the machine behind me. It's using essentially what amounts to a modified version of a Core i7 6700, but instead of using the extra circuitry for the video card and QSV for the encoding, it's using it for ECC. So I could actually use ECC memory that would normally be for servers and workstations, but apparently. It only I've seen another machine with a very similar processor. It looks like it's probably ECC only, but not buffered. So anyway, so if you look at the number here, it is about 50% of the processor, and that includes the OBS Studio that's running. I just realized something. I need to run one other program that I neglected to start. While I'm here, let's go ahead and do that. Oops. Actually, I need to do it from that machine, in fact. We're going to do that right here, right now. Kind of forgot that. We're going to tuck this one away. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I know thus far we haven't touched OBS Studio 32.1.0 just yet. Or more accurately, 32.1.0 Beta 2, more accurately. But we will be getting to it shortly. And the machines that I have are capable of accommodating processors with up to 22 cores. With each, with all of them, I believe, being hyper-threading, and with a grand total of 88 threads on the machine. So that's one thing I want to do at some point, is get maybe this machine fully kitted out to a higher-end processor set of higher-end processors. I may need to have higher-end memory on there, because I think this is only 2133 megahertz. And I may have to go with 2400 megahertz. We already got processor. We already have Task Manager running. I need to see if... Nope, I guess it isn't running. Let's try that. Let's try that again. I think I was running the wrong program entirely. I meant that one. This one. I do not have this one installed on the other computer just yet, and I probably won't. We're going to put that away, but I'm also going to do this real quick just to make sure it's actually working. Hang on. There we go. We know it works. So anyway, there's that. That's working. That's working exactly the way I want it to work, which is good. Now we're going to go ahead and go back to the other item, which is we're going to go back to the machine that I'm working on. Like I said, the main thing to keep an eye on is the processor utilization on this. We're in excess of half the processor utilization. It goes anywhere between like about 29% all the way up to about 75%, I figure, given what I've seen on this machine, what I've seen it do. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch back over to the other machine. I'm going to watch this machine instead. And we're going to be switching this one back to this one. And I'm probably going to I'm going to temporarily end the, by what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell, actually I need this one real quick now that I think about it. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to start up, actually not this one, it's the other computer I wanted to look at. Let's see. I'm at this one. I need to come over here too. Let's see now. I wanted to go here. Because a lot of this stuff is Steam running on this machine? No, it's not. Let's fix that. I'm going to switch this over here. Because I have reasons for that. It'll be just a moment. I don't know why it's doing that, but we'll deal with that in a minute. That's a minor issue. There's a reason why I moved this over here. That's because I don't know if I'm logged into this machine or not. Oh, no, this machine's coming up. Oh, I see, because one of the things I was waiting for it to do was start OBS Studio. Okay, no, we don't have to worry about that after all. So we're going to go back here. Now that that's up and running. Oh. I just realized something. I won't be able to do it from this machine. I just remembered. Damn. Actually, I can. I'm sorry. I'm wrong. I can do this. Let's go to the library. This is my normal library machine. My library machine. My other computer runs a completely different instance of OBS Studio. What we're going to do is, first of all, we also happen to run. We need to run vBridger. Once it's running, we're going to shut vBridger off on this other computer, most notably, not going to see this one. I will show you this one. Actually, this is not the one we want. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a moment when I'm getting ready, what I need to shut down. That would be this one right here. We're going to shut this one down temporarily. Oh, wait a minute. That's because I'm looking at the wrong machine. I needed to slip that one down there. And this one, we're going to disconnect the iPhone from here. My model is now frozen. This model has anyway, but the one I'm about to bring up in the background that's about to come up. Most notably, this one. We're going to connect to this one. Actually, I need to switch mice again. It's this one we need to connect to. There we go. Because for whatever reason, it does not like running multiple instances of OBS Studio, VBridger connected to the iPhone. I don't know why it wants just one of those sessions. What we're going to do now, start that one running. Tuck this away. I don't have tits installed on this computer, so we're not going to be doing any kind of. And on top, not only would I have to put tits on there, I would also have it set up such that it's logged in, and on top of that, with all my custom items in there too. So I've got VTube Studio coming up on that. We're barely breaking 5% on the processor right now. There's myself. We're gonna go ahead and connect the back end of VBridger out, and it should be connecting up just fine in a moment, I hope. Okay. Yes, we want that. Allow. There we go. And again, look. We're not even hitting 15%. We just barely hit 15%. We're not even touching 20% of processor on this yet. And here's another system. There's another thing that you'll see here. I'm going to pull myself down here. And we're going to go to the CPU graph. It says change graph to originally. This is the overall, which is one big, huge overall graph. But if you look up here, and I select where it says logical processors, that brings us to the 48 nodes here. Now we're going to switch it to NUMA nodes. That will only appear when you have 2 or more processors in the same computer. And that probably tells you, I believe this tells you how much one processor is accessing the other. Stuff that the other one has access to. Basically, one of my friends was basically telling me about how latency can be affected by the fact that we're working with 2 processors as opposed to just one. And on top of that, these have 3 levels of cache. Let's see. According to this, it's level 1 cache is 1.5 megabytes. Level 2 cache is 6 megabytes. And level 3 is 60. Holy shit, I guess I did not even notice all those numbers. Damn. Makes me want these chips even more. So, yeah, that is a dual processor machine with 12 cores each, 24 threads per socket, multiplied by 2 sockets. We're just now only hitting 24% of the CPU utilization across both machines, across both sockets. So anyway, that's what's going on with this. We're only just barely touching this machine at all right now. The machine that I was working on this morning is a quad hyper-threading core machine with 3.7 gigahertz processing. It's a little bit more than what these other machines are using, but it's roughly the same processor utilization given what I'm doing with it right now. This is roughly the same. There's the main thing that's the other one that has in its favor is just the processing speed. This one right now has more cores after it, and it's actually a full gigahertz slower. 1.1 gigahertz slower than the one behind me in terms of base clock. This will go up to 3.4 gigahertz turbo. So, yeah. We're going to switch back to the other machine so I can go back to VTubing from my normal self. I know it's a little bit weird looking at me just sort of talking here and then being absolutely dead to the world from that machine. So here's the fun part. We're going to go ahead and disconnect this wide. I'm disconnecting the iPhone now. I'm going to switch back to the other computer. First of all, I need to get to the right computer to do that from. Reconnect to the iPhone, and we're good to go. Isn't that crazy? Now we're going to go ahead and shut down VTube Studio and ODS Studio on this side. And the real fun's going to begin now. Because what we're going to be doing is playing with OBS Studio in portable mode. And that's kind of important if you want to do any kind of testing. It works best to do it with a so-called portable install, which allows you to keep the configs within that particular confines of that install and not mess with your existing configs. You don't want to do that if you can avoid it. We're going to go to... I'm going to use Drive E. Excuse me. We'll do new folder. Wrong computer. And then we're going to extract the copy. We're going to extract the contents of the zip. Oh, I need to download the damn thing. I just realized. Silly me. Don't mind me. I just getting a little scuffed in the brain today. Let's see what we got here. Again, using the wrong keyboard. Let's see, obsproject.com. What I actually need more than anything is the GitHub site. Oh yeah, this one's already there. We need to go to releases. What we need to do is make a sideways switch from. We need to switch releases. Want to switch there. We're going to get this one down here. We're going to get the zip file, not the installer. Not what I wanted, but we'll deal. What we're going to do is we're going to go downloads, open a new window, go in here. We're going to move this into another place elsewhere in a moment. I might just do it off stream. Let's try that again. There we go. Now it should be extracting it now. There's one other thing I have to do before too long. In fact, I'll do that on one of the machines right now. I need to get a file. It doesn't even have to be much of anything. It just needs to be a file named a particular way. And I'll show you that. And I can actually, if the directory is there, I can show you what I'm talking about. Applications, OBS Studio Portal, OBS Portable Installs. There we go. We'll do it this way then. We'll go ahead and go over to OBS Studio here. This area over here is what I'm talking. If you see the directory over there, right next to my face, there's a file there that says OBS Portable Mode. We're going to create a file with that in that directory, and then we're going to fire up OBS Studio in that mode. A directory will then appear like the one that's in here, and basically all your configs will be stored in there. And one thing you can do actually with your normal configs is actually copy them from there into this directory area, and that's how I usually do my my testing with other versions of OBS Studio. And what we're going to do before we do anything, we're going to go switch back to here, and then we're going to go ahead and create that file. What we're going to do first is, first of all, get to the right, tell the mouse to use the right computer, like that one. Again, I have to use the right keyboard. C CD OBS Studio, Notepad OBS Portable Mode. Yes, we want to create the file. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. We need to do this first. Save. Exit the file. Now you see the file there. It's a 0-byte file. It doesn't have to have anything in there. It just has to be named that way and there. So what we do next is we go to bind /OBS, 64-bit, and then OBS 64. There it goes. And I'm going to show you and look at the directory down here. It's going to, something is going to, actually, did I? No, that's the wrong directory. That's the zip file. That's the one we wanted. There's OBS plugins right there. What we're going to do, we're not going to actually set it up. Instead, we're going to go cancel. We're going to make a few changes real quick here before we go on. So we click settings. First things first, audio. My setups are always set up like this. Default, disabled, default, disabled. I don't like getting ugly surprises from anything else that's there. Usually a microphone is set up as a default audio input, and along with the same setup as an alternate audio input. Desktop audio, I try to avoid at absolutely all costs in my particular setup, and that's for any of them on the entire setup here. So the next thing we do, and also one of my first things I always like to do. Yummy, we leave it there. Classic. We go compact. Dial it down. Okay. So actually for this one, we're probably gonna dial things back up the way they were. That's what I usually do for my setups here. But for our purposes, we're gonna go ahead and put it back to normal. Normal. Apply. That way we can see what's going on here. And now the fun part. I'm going to try and add an audio source. In this case, one of my the easiest way for me to do what I want to do this with. Where are the... Oh, the sources are right here. Scenes and sources are here. Okay, and they're doing the auto mixer down here. Wonder why they chose to do it that way. Anyway, we want to add a source. For this example, actually, you know what we're going to do instead? Actually, we want to do this. Add source. Let's, for example, say media source. Oh. Instead of actually creating a new window, it does it from within here. Create new. And then, of course, this is where you, the create a new is a different window entirely. Interesting. And now it's, I guess, opening a directory. I'm going to close some of these windows out here while we're thinking about it. We're going to go try use drive C, and we're going to go in Windows's area. Okay, this is weird. This is the correct window. Okay. Nope. That's media, I think, is the name of the directory that I need to go into for that. But that's nice. It actually does everything vertically like I like it. From the outset, I like it. I'm already liking it. You know what I think I'm also going to do? Settings. We're going to increase it a bit more, and I'm going to jack it up just a bit. We're going to do that, and we're also going to make things a bit bigger so you can see what's going on here. We're going to go back to appearance, comfortable, and we're going to go bump it up to 12, apply. Oh, interesting. Apparently you could actually create multiple items here. We're going to add another item here. No. Oh, you could do it as horizontal, vertical. The usual settings like you're always used to in OBS Studio. Options. Show hidden sources. Show inactive sources. Keep sources hidden to the right. Keep hidden sources to the right. Keep inactive sources to the right. Oh, this is neat. Like, let's try that just for the hell of it. I don't have audio stuff turned on yet. We can turn that on just for the hell of it, just to see what happens here. I'm going to switch. Also, I'm also going to set it up so I can see what's going on that machine as well. So I'm going to watch the stream from the studio, because that's where my source for the for what you guys are seeing of what I'm working on here is here. So if I were to play that again, I also need to set up to do that again. I don't have to worry about right clicking and doing that. Monitor off. We're going to turn monitor and output at the same time. Oh. I want to take a look at something real quick while I'm thinking about this. Monitor off. Monitor only, which is the mute one. Ah, that's interesting. I've been wondering how that. And of course, all the tracks that you normally use. Whoops. Press the wrong key there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do a reload here. There that is. I'm not sure if you guys heard that or not. I think you did. I saw that on the beam source there. Properties, like always. Filters. I can stop there. And also, one thing I'm going to do before too long, I'm going to shut this program down, and I'm going to show you one. I'm going to use another program that I normally use on all of my media stuff. I'm going to grab a copy of Exceldro's media source. Media controls. While I'm at it, and let's go ahead and get this out of here too. This PCs. We're going to go to, actually, no, not even that. We're going to go into downloads. Cut. Because we need to go back this way, and I'm going to grab a plugin out of there. While I'm there, I might as well go in there and dump this in here. Streaming Soft, OBS Studio, 32 and later, distributions, 32.x.x. I'm going to paste that here. Doing Terracopy for that. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . for that, we're going to take this. We're going to move this into betas. Explorer, because it's a simple move. And then we're going to go back here, plugins. Not in this directory. I think it's in a different one, but that's okay. Many of these plugins will still work with OBS Studio 32 point something. What we want is media controls, latest version of it. Not the program data, because I don't think OBS Studio in portable mode honors /program data /OBS Studio /plugins. What we're going to do instead is we're going to copy this. Drive E, OBS Studio, and paste. And if anybody has any questions, by all means, feel free to ask. Run, browse. In 64-bit, OBS 64. Go. We're going to add. There goes the media file that I had added as a source. What we're going to do now is we're going to add this doc that's called Media Controls. And I'm going to put this right here. Oh my goodness, this is going to be nice. Let's do this. We're going to play. We can actually play this one. That's interesting. It looks like there's a bit of a delay. But anyway, that's one of the controllers that I always have on my setup. In fact, let's watch this on my studio setup here, and I could show you how that works real quick by switching over to excuse me. Let me get over here. Actually, I need to go to the correct computer first. There is my setup right here. And that area that you're seeing up there, that media thing that you're seeing there, is showing the part where my where everybody's information comes in, like people who are doing the stuff that all the stats from Twitch and the stats from YouTube. And if I had other stuff, like say if I had Trovo, for example, I could show that information in there, or any other like that. And the stuff that you're hearing for the BGM is actually coming from a completely different machine, but I'm using something completely different for that. So I could show you that real quick by going over here. And you're gonna love mine. Look at how simple it is. There are no scenes. There's only one scene, which is the one that comes stock. There are no sources, and the only thing that's in here is this: the advanced scene switcher. Basically, it has one or two events in there only, and I'll show you what else is in here. We'll go in here. It has one event and only one event. And that's basically an event that gets sent over. When picked up, it turns on the BGM. I even have a button on here that allows me to turn off the BGM. First one actually fades it out. Second one turns it off completely. We're going to turn it back on. That's how my setup works. Getting that going. And I know this is not directly related to OBS Studio the new OBS Studio that's in the process of being beta tested. It is kind of an important item there, though. But since we're here, we're going to do a tools, and not tools, but help. And I'm trying to find check for updates. No updates are currently available. That's not what I was looking for. There's the encoder. Of course, it only has a simple scene on there, and that's what pulls information, in this case, from the beam receiver, which comes in over the 10 gig Ethernet connection. OMT and NDI go over gigabit connections. They don't need a lot of bandwidth, but that's how let's see. NDI is an industry standard one. OMT was created by the folks at vMix and released to anybody who wants to implement it. NDI is essentially intellectual property of VizRT right now, originally developed by NewTek back in the day. OMT, they released vMix released it to the general computing using public on a very, very, very liberal open source basis, which I am grateful for. And honestly, I would like to actually see that as part of OBS Studio, because at least the software is already already has a really good license on it, and it is a completely open standard. Beam is also open, but right now it's only for OBS Studio. Teleport, unlike the previous two, uses what is called basically uses essentially what amounts to what is called motion JPEG. Basically, they take individual pictures at speed, shoots them across the network, and using a faster implementation of it allows you to do higher resolution images, and you could use that to send video across the network. So that's how this works. And of course, I can do other things, such as I'm going to show you, like my encoder. I can go to an AFK slot, AFK slide. We'll be back in just a moment. We go back to the ingester here. If something goes really sideways on the rest of the network, in case you missed it, this. And if things are going really sideways and I need it to be instantly black and silent, I can do this. So there you go. I get to see a little bit of the interior of how things work on this side. I love doing this. This is the kind of setup this is the kind of stuff I really love doing. I also need at some point to do stuff that allows me to switch between sources without having to, switch out over here like that. Because I'm not actively using my Stream Deck to do that. I'm doing it from within OBS Studio on this computer. So it looks like they've decided to move the this whole idea. I believe you can see this. This actually has been around here for a while. But this is the first time I've actually seen them actually make this standard. Because normally, all this would be over here. Ordinarily, my stuff, as you saw earlier. Actually, let me try that again. These are you could do. You should have been able to do this for a while, but I have elected to move things around. Like for example, I take controls. That's where I usually keep controls. And in the way my current setup is like this, I don't have to necessarily do it this way. I prefer doing courses over here. And this over here. Like that. That's where I usually like to keep that here. Scenes I usually like to keep right here. You can do a lot of crazy stuff here. And of course you saw my other setup here, and I'll show you that in a moment. So you're learning a lot. You can actually, there's a lot of stuff I'm showing about OBS Studio that you can do in this side. For example, I'll switch back over to this one. Like for example, you see all the stuff that all the audio levels that can. In this case, these are the audio levels that are going from the studio over into the encoder, and then over here. What you'll see here is on one side you have my all my levels that are coming in from the encoder and then out into Twitch and YouTube, and on the opposite side are any of the extra additional basically the additional outputs. In this case, under one where it says YouTube, that is how I send stuff to YouTube. Excuse me. So that's how that's working. So we're going to go back to HDMI capture. The one thing I wanted to do, I'm going to go back to the other item real quick here first. See if I can see. Help. Check for updates. That's what we're after. I'll show you in just a sec here. That's what we wanted to see right there. Basically, what we're talking about here, 32.1 new features. Added new audio mixer. One thing I haven't done yet is added additional sources. We'll do that in a minute. Added new source dialogue. We already saw that. WebRTC simulcast support. I'm going to have to check that one out in just a minute. We'll do that when we get back in just a sec here. We're just going through all this here. Added missing undo redo actions for scene items. Scale filtering, blending mode, blending method, deinterlacing mode, and deinterlacing field order. And then there are changes. Removed source from source names. They're just basically changes there. Updated the edit transform dialogue. Changed copying a scene from copying all properties. Disabled deck animations. Disabled dock animations. Excuse me. Move transition preview button to a button box. Exceldro. Exceldro is one of the actual, not only a developer of one of the craziest bunch of plugins out there that a good many of us like to use. He's also one of the OBS Studio developers. Increased media source playback slider update rate. In other words, it's a bit more. That's when you look at the dialogue there. Increased, let's see, enabled palette for light theme audio mixer, and of course, who even uses the light theme? Change default bit rates to 6,000 kilobits per second. Yeah, I think in the past it was like 2.5 by default, and of course, Twitch likes to have. Of course, everybody tries to do 6 megabits a second for Twitch. Except when I lived in my other place, I had to use something slower. And on top of that, I ended up using 720p, excuse me. And there are bug fixes on 32.1, I guess, for the previous beta released. Fixed an issue. NVIDIA blur and background, okay. Fixed an issue, yada yada. No, we're not updating. Oh hell no! That's my current That's my current running setup. So no, I'm not doing that. So let's active. I think what I do when they do this. Oh, when they do something like this. Okay, the reason I'm not hearing it is because I don't have it. Let's see, I'm going to move this back over here so we can watch what's going on here. Because you guys aren't necessarily seeing it that easily. You're seeing it by way of my OBS Studio seeing of that. And instead of actually directly seeing it, let's try this again, shall we? We need to go into OBS Studio and go back to here. I thought was this. I'm gonna try something else here. I need to get some files copied over from the other computer somehow. I'm gonna try another actual. Do another item there. Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness, that's actually a pretty slick idea. Look at this. Put another file in there. Add existing item if we wanted to. We put on there add one existing. If we wanted to do it that way, that is. Or in this case, we'll turn that off. Audio capture. Create new source. The name. I'm actually liking this whole setup. Text free type. Add existing. This site is marked as deprecated and it does allow creating new sources. Okay. And of course, window capture. That's the capture method. There aren't any windows to capture. I'm going to remove this one real quick here. We're going to add another media one. We're going to add a new one. We're just going to put that in there just for the sake of having the darn thing in here. Main thing I don't like about this is that you can't reorder the items in here, which is kind of sad. There is a plugin that allows you to do it, but only does it in horizontal mode, and I prefer things in vertical. So at least there's that option. None hidden. Of course, we have options up here. Docs. Custom browser docs if you wanted to do that. And that's how I That's how I implement doing stuff like showing off, doing the stuff that I do. I do the rocket launch things is by way of that. One sits in my dock, and the other one sits as a browser source, and they communicate with each other that allow me to scan across through another thing. And another item I do, and another thing I use is a browser. There's a source that it's called source dock, that allows me to view an item basically directly as I can view it directly outside of OBS Studio. And actually, like for example, that's how I did VOOP chat the other night, is I watched that as if I were looking at a browser, but it was actually talking straight into OBS Studio as a source. But I also have another source so I can watch it, because normally I have my OBS Studio off to my side. Let's see, profile here, docs. Plugin manager, in case you've ever messed with this. There's, in this case, I got media controls. We can turn that off when you restart the program, and it won't load if I uncheck that. I'm going to show you another plugin I like, and that's by Andy Stone, aka Andy Lippy. We're going to do that real quick while we're here. I'm going to show you the one that Andy shows a lot of stuff that he's working on, but I'd rather show you the released one, because I feel comfortable about doing this on stream. This one. We're going to go to OBS Studio. Go plugins that are primary for that one. That is the Stream Up plugin. He has other products that he uses with that it's mainly used to interact with, but a lot of the stuff he does within here is extremely useful, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in a moment. I'm going to do Control A. Excuse me. That Control A. Copy. And then we're going to go in here. In there, excuse me. There's that. Yeah, I'm a little bummed that you can't do that. And hide that. Like one hidden. Oh, you can do that by showing it. We're going to unhide that. Hidden that, for example. Lock volume, which means it cannot go any lower than that. Ah, interesting. Properties per usual. Being able to turn those off without having to go and open up that thing, it looks really, really nice. I don't think I can do that actually. No, I can't. I was just looking at OBS Studio's existing controls. They don't work that way. Actually, I have to use the advanced properties and then make changes from there. But being able to open up, just be able to look at the mixer, and any mixer, any items that are there in the mixer, you just go click, 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 click in rapid succession like that. It's pretty nice being able to say, for example, click and click, for example, to turn off the turn that off, and then mute to shut it off entirely. That is only where the stream hears it. This is where only I hear it. This is where both you and I hear it. But yeah, that's... Wow, they are doing some pretty cool stuff here. But anyway, what I was going to show you is... Oh, did I ever... No, it doesn't seem to have tools. I think I might have incorrectly... Try this again. We're going to exit out of here. That's not what I meant to do. I need to reinstall. Oh, you just closed it. I need to redock it. Let's do that real quick here. Docs. I just realized I screwed up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here real quick and we're going to restart. Switch that over here. Oh, wow, it actually worked again. I'm going to shut down OBS Studio on this local computer and then restart it, and then that at least give me my give me control again so I can show you that again. But yeah, they're really doing some pretty nice things there. That's it. I am in the right spot. Let's go ahead and head back over here. That's strange. Okay, let's see. Is it showing? I don't know what's happening here. Hang on. Oh, you know what I may need to do? There we go. Now I'm seeing it in there. It appears that I may have I may not have gotten that software installed right. Hang on. I don't think I plugged it in right. Let's do this real quick. We're going to go back into network. Streaming Soft, OBS Studio. Plugins. And we're going to go to drive E. Let's see if we can find it in here. Stream Up is here. Maybe I was running the wrong OBS Studio. Because I don't think I have my entire set of plugins in here. So let's do this instead. Run. Browse. And it may not necessarily be ready yet for OBS Studio 32.1. We'll see. There it is. I see it now. Maybe I unpacked it incorrectly. And there you go. One of the things I like so much about this is, and it helps when I go set things up, because I use what is called the /program data /OBS Studio /plugins hierarchy. We're going to do, I can show you that in my current setup in a minute on one of them. So what we do is we, for example, go and check for updates. We go with tools and actually no, we want Stream Up and settings. Then we go plugin management. You install plugin. If you installed plugins, these are the two that have versioning information in there, and there are these that have other options in here that have that don't have any versioning information in there. In this case, these are also ones that these particular three are actually built into OBS Studio. Now, the one thing I'm curious about is settings, output, and they're talking about the other items there, and Venk. That's interesting because this is a Kepler class card. I'll have to do some playing with it later. Thankfully, I have a completely separate stream for that one to mess with. The one that they were talking about, the WebRTC ones, I don't know what that does. Although let me just take a look at this one because they may have made changes with this one. IP family, IPVs 4 and 6. I normally use IPv4 only for the VTuber, the gaming computer, and the studio computer because they're only they only talk about the next hop studio, the devices there. The only time it makes a difference on actually streaming is when you're actually in the encoder side of things. General. Those are the updates, betas, release candidates, potentially unstable pre-release versions, or stable. And of course, you have output, show confirmation when starting streams, stopping streams, stopping recording, and automatically record. You also have the option to automatically record while streaming. Keep recording while streaming stops. If you did that, automatically start replay buffer. I don't play with rebuffering. I don't play with the replay buffer. Alignment, yada yada. Projectors. I think a lot of people use that as part of their multi-streaming, multi-PC streaming setup. That's not how I do things here. I send things out over a network, so I don't have to use another HDMI part for that particular feature, because I don't like doing that. It feels so, despite it actually being digital, it feels so analog to me. Multi-view. Oh, yeah, that's just for being able to look at all the various scenes that you may have available. Appearance, we already messed with that. Stream. all the other options that these are the primary ones that everybody uses. I remember when VStream was around, they actually had that in there. Output. There it is, 6,000 kilobits per second. The normal default rate is 160 kilobits for audio. Enable customer encodings for optional. And on top of that, Twitch VOD, you can actually set up a second stream that gets to be sent to Twitch in case music gets detected. I don't have that set up at this point because I have to set up the infrastructure to make it work such that only certain audio gets sent by way of that. So I'll have to figure that out at some point. But I don't have any. The only time I've ever been nailed on any kind of audio is by actual game audio on my normal streams, which is weird. Recordings. Yeah, so many options. FLV is the default format for sending stuff over RTMP. Matroska is what the original default was before they had. And this is standard MP4.mov for QuickTime, hybrid MT4, hybrid MOV. MP4 was actually derived from Apple's MOV file format. Fragmented MOV, fragmented MP5, MPEG transport stream. Not to mess with that one. Audio, I've already messed with those parts. Monitoring device is going out to the default device, no big deal. Video. I normally like to do everything the same. And I usually like to set it to 59.94. Hotkeys. But yeah, using the stuff that's built into OBS Studio, as well as the if it sees something but doesn't necessarily know how to present it. I mean, if it sees something in the program data OBS Studio plugins directory, if it sees it, it'll say that there's a directory by that name, but the plugin isn't registering like it should. You actually have, and it also say, it might even say what the actual name of the plugin is that OBS Studio wants to hook into. But and that helps out enormously because you do need to make sure you name the directory properly, or OBS Studio will not see it and hook the plugin into the rest of the system. So anyway, that's how that goes. I can't remember if it was StreamUp's setup for looking at plugins. It's just that those two items, especially StreamUp, they help enormously in enumerating plugins that you have on your setup. The only thing I've noticed is that StreamUp does not see distro AV as part of these the plugins that are installed. I'm not sure why it's that way. Not that it bothers me, because as long as it's being there is kind of important. If it's not there, there's a problem. But anyway. And on top of that, if you need something if you have a problem where it's having trouble starting up, what you can then do is, actually, you know what? Just for the hell of it, I wonder if I can actually tell it to. I wonder if there's a way to actually tell it to start up. And if it is set up to, if it's set up to not load, if you're telling it to start in safe mode. The reason I'm curious about that, you can actually go in the direct. Oh, is that new? want to check something real quick here. If it is different, oh, it actually is here. I didn't even see this before. It is actually part of standard OBS Studio. Let me switch to that. If you ever need to get copies of your profiles and your setting and your like profiles, you go into the basics directory. It has your profiles and your scenes right there. And settings directory goes into the actual directory where all your settings for OBS Studio, including your you go into the basic directory. That's where your profiles and scenes are, and those are the ones you want to back up as frequently as you can. And in fact, there's a plugin there from that Exceldra that has that allows you to go and make backups of that. Let's see if I can remember the name of that damn directory. One thing I will do at some point is make a... Actually, you know what? While we're here, let's go ahead and grab that real quick here. Network. Look, we're going to back out of here real quick. We're going to go over here. Blocks files. Streaming soft. OBS Studio. It may be, I may have to switch to a different directory. Scene collections, I believe it's called. It's not in here. We're going to have to go into a different directory area. In this case, it's going to be for the previous one, which is 28 to 31. 28 to 31. And that will be those older releases of OBS Studio. Anything 20, anything below 28 is really not really something you can use. One plugin that I've been using for a very long time, which is Wind Capture Audio, apparently it's still usable, even in this day and age. And I'm pretty happy about that, because the way they handle basically saying, if this program is running, we'll go ahead and start capturing it, etc., etc., etc. Or if you use that particular instance and you tell it not to capture anything in that list, it'll capture everything else except those ones that you have in your list. So what we're going to go do now is Scene Collection Manager. That's what we're looking for right there. Let me go double check something while we're here. There we go. That's what we're after. We want to... We're going to accept that because they have only very basic support. They only need very basic support for cookies. What we want to do is go into plugins. What we're looking for now is that's it right there. I don't know if I have any, I don't know if there are any newer versions of it. Nope, that is the latest release. I'm going to tuck that away. Let's go ahead and start that up. Tools. Scene Collection Manager. Actually, let's go into my other machine real quick. I need to switch over to that setup first. There we go. I'm going to show you that on there right now. I'm going to go to Tools. Scene Collection Manager. Like, this is the one I normally use. Switch. Config. We can add. I just did a backup of that. Automatic backup. Uh-oh. Well, that's going to crash, but thankfully whoops, sorry about that. That's one of the charms of having a bit of separation going on. In case something goes holy cow tear sideways like that, I at least have a little bit of ability to recover. Because I managed to crash the studio system. I'm not sure if I'd have to go look at the video at some point just to see what it looks like. Because at least I know something went wrong, and first thing I did was go to the controls for the machines and tell it to shut the machine into a technical difficulty slide with BGM, and then once everything started up, I went ahead and released it back into the mode there where you can see me and everything else. So thankfully, I like that. That works out pretty nicely. So anyway, I think that's pretty much all the stuff I'm seeing right now that could be new with OBS Studio. Let me take a look at a couple of other things before. I'm gonna have to mess with the whole thing with what's going on elsewhere there for the web RTC stuff and see what's going on with that. But in the meantime, I think it is time. Let's see here. Go ahead and call it. Let's go ahead and pretty much call it for now. But I wanted to at least show you what all was going on, what I've been dealing with, and also tell you what's been going on my side of things. Like I said, car's paid off, so I have a bit more money to work with now, possibly with artwork and potentially other things going on. So more soon as things develop. But I wanted to at least tell you what was going on. And on top of that, I'm watching OBS Studio 32.1.0 crazily right now because that has a few changes I'm already liking. So I'm going to be playing with it on a local machine just to if I actually broadcast with it, I will probably do much the same as I did the other one, which is create temporary directories. Let me do one other thing here real quick. I just realized something else here. There we we go. I need to press that button on here so then things work like they should. Let me get back to in flight. There we go. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing what I was working on. And for those of you in the future, I hope you enjoyed watching some of the crazy stuff, including a little bit of scuff, both in terms of at the very beginning of the stream and just now when I went and crashed out the studio setup, and then all of a sudden watch me come right back. But in the meantime, I hope everybody has a great one, and thank you so much for coming on by. Let me do something. I don't think I'm going to rate anyone just right now. I might do some streaming a little later tonight, particularly if I need some games. But in the meantime, I wanted to at least test that out real quick here. And as always, I'd like to say Slava Ukraini. Thank you so much for coming on by. And if I happen to come on playing a game again, I will certainly announce it on my socials per usual. And thank you so much for coming in and watching me do all this crazy stuff, and also watching me play with high-powered computing toys. In the meantime, I hope in the meantime, I hope you have a great one, and I will see you then. Bye.